We'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the January 2nd Lee Select Board meeting. First order of business and minutes of open session minutes of December 19th, 2023.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the open session minutes from Tuesday, December 19th, 2023.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on, public comment. Do we have any comments for the public? Tim, can you just state your name and your address, Tim?
My name is Timothy Gray, and I live at 165 Bradley Street in Lee, Massachusetts. That good?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I got a bunch of things to hit. I'm going to try to hit them pretty quick, but it's kind of like things that HRI is planning and some of the things that we've accomplished in the last month or two. And it's important stuff, okay? So the first thing is I have invited Chris Young, who is the CEO of Biotech, to come, and he has agreed to come February, maybe March, okay? And I haven't talked to him in maybe 8 years. This is the company, if you remember, 15 years ago, they started saying to EPA, give us 2 acres. We'll treat it for free. And if it doesn't work, you know, we'll go away with our tails behind us. But if it works, maybe we can talk, you know, this type of thing. And of course, EPA never followed up on it, didn't care about it, just ignored and told everybody that the stuff doesn't work. But meanwhile, Chris Young has an ongoing track record, okay? And, you know, right now I was telling Dave about this on the way in, but right now he got a job in, you know, they had the fire in Maui, okay? So when that fire happened, it burnt down the village, but it also burnt down all of these abandoned pineapple plantations, okay? And so it burnt them down, and in the burning of these, you know, stubs of pineapple plants, again, they were abandoned, and thousands of acres of them, they left behind arsenic. Kind of strange, but it makes sense. So then they asked Chris Young, could he get rid of the arsenic? And so he is, and you know what he's doing it with? Hemp. Mm-hmm. And having success with it. So anyway, you know, they have been looking at the arsenic being taken up, studying the plant. Now they're looking at it and they're saying, hey, we think there's other stuff being picked up too, including chlorinated hydrocarbons, which are the class of chemicals that PCBs, dioxin, all of those are in. So anyway, he's got that to come and tell us about. He's also going to he's got 3 or 4 other technologies now since the last time I saw him, working on different things. He's got an oxidation technology. He's got about 3 or 4 different things. Now what my plan is to bring him up. He'll talk to us. He'll be, you know, he'll talk to us and tell us all about everything that he's doing, and then what I would like to have him do, which he's agreed to do, is to meet with the board of the Berkshire Eagle, if they will meet with me and us, okay? Because they are continuing to say that nothing works, you know? And every time we say that to the Eagle in some way, fascists, you know, they diss. And they did a great job of dissing Chris Young, too. Now, Chris Young's group is the group that got the contract to clean up the log cabin site in Great Barrington, and they were in their first year of remediation. Contract said 3 years of application of their protein technology, and then what happened is EPA and DEP, they didn't like really what was going on, and they come in and they shut the site down. And they tell Biotech, pack up, go away, it's not working. Meanwhile, there was a company called Ransom Engineering. See, I was the one that organized this whole thing down here. And we got this Ransom Engineering, was like an ombudsman on the site. In other words, what are we really destroying chemicals. This is all BS, you know what I mean? So this is what this engineering firm, so anyway, they came in, some people complained, they said, oh, the site was letting off bad fumes. I got right in my car, went down. It's the wastewater treatment plant. It's not what Chris Young is doing, But meanwhile, so they come in, EPA and Mass DEP shuts them right down. Meanwhile, Ransom Engineering, in their job as ombudsman, right before Chris Young left the site, they took a round of samples. 60% of the dioxin in one areas that they tested was gone, showing that it's got the ability to deal with chlorinated hydrocarbons. And so it's very important. Chris Young's company is very important because of that, because he has a track record. They just cleaned, I think I've told you this before, maybe they cleaned up a school in California. The school came, the town came to biotech and said, listen, we got one piece of land left to build a school on, and it's got PCBs on it. And he made a contract, and it's 2 years later, the school is built. Okay, he cleaned up the PCBs. Anyway, if I can get him to, meet with the Eagle, that would be incredible. So I just wanted to tell you that he's coming to town, and we're going to have like an HRI night, and invite everybody to come, ask them questions, do whatever they can do, and that's what that'll be. Okay, second thing is we've been working on our tag grant. We've had a long time for a tag. We've had a tag grant, but we haven't spent the money for a long time, and the reason why, Josh went off on some crazy thing about it one time, but he didn't understand that there were reasons why we weren't spending the money, because number one, we couldn't find an advisor that was, technically smart enough or PCB literate enough to want to be, for HRI, wanting them to be their tag advisor. And what ended up happening is we called up, we were looking and looking. Finally, of course, we called up David Carpenter, and he said, I've got the guy for you. And we have now, as of 9 days ago, we have hired Dr. Mark Hermanson, okay? He works with David Carpenter. He's probably as smart as David Carpenter, and we've got an ace in a hole with this guy. This guy is amazing. He's been on reviewing reports for about a week now. He's already found 3 or 4 major mistakes in EPA charts, things like that, about congeners and things like that. He says they don't know what they're talking about, this guy. Anyway, so we're inviting him up, yeah, so the other thing that Mark and David Carpenter are finding out is they're working on with the Akwesasne Indian tribe up in up in the North Country, and they how every single PCB job they do, they leave low-level PCBs behind. You know what I mean? Like if there's only 15 parts, just leave it there. It's going to be okay. That's EPA's sort of position. But what David Carpenter and Mark are finding out now is that these small amounts of PCBs they're not disintegrating over time. They are disintegrating to a lower level congener. And the congener that they're seeing is one called PCB4 and PCB6, which are both known to be super toxic. So as these low-level PCBs that they left in Pittsfield, that they left every cleanup in the world, they've left these PCs. It means that those low-level PCBs they left behind.
Can I interrupt you, Tim,
Sure.
for a second, just to give a little bit more background about like what the conjugar what was the
okay.
You're talking about the molecules and how they're structured, and like it's the amount of chlorine elements on the biphenyl, right?
Correct. Yeah,
Could you,
yeah.
like just for because I don't
just so everybody knows, there's 209 congeners of PCBs.
Yeah.
And they all represent different levels of toxicity and things like this. So again, these low-level, PCBs that they're leaving at sites are now degrading to this PCB.
It's a different
Strangely enough, it's a low-level conjugate, but what Dr. Hermanson and David says, they're these two conjugates are extremely toxic. So what's happening is the low-level PCBs are producing worse things, okay?
Gail, I'm going to let Tim continue, and then at the end,
Something I could clarify that what he's saying, there's low levels of PCBs left. I think what he means is there's low amounts of PCBs left. And what's happening is, if I'm understanding it, some of the chlorine are being stripped away and you're getting a different cogen or whatever, of PCBs with less chlorines on it? Is that what's happening?
I don't think so, Gail. I think what's happening is that the PCBs, the low-level PCBs are actually
Get on the agenda for
degrading.
next time.
They're just degrading on their own into PCB 6 or PCB 4.
Right, so
So,
there's something,
I just don't
some
want to
kind of
complain.
reaction going on and
Right.
it's changing the amount of chlorines or something. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But you were talking about there
Okay.
being a low amount left.
Yeah, so anyway, they're finding this out, which is, it's quite disturbing. I'm going to move on because I have a few more things to talk about here. I want to mention again about the leaking dumps that are near the UDF, as we know. Our municipal dump and the old paper mill dump that's over there. And, the thing that worries us is, from what we read, is that it looks like eventually the ownership of the UDF will go under DEP's authority,
Right.
which is a nightmare. Because if you go look at the paper mill dump, that's managed by DEP. The thing's out of control. It's leaking everywhere. It's really that dump is scary right now, and I think it's adding to some of the sickness that's in that street right along through in there. And anyway, it won't be too good to have DEP in charge of the UDF eventually. I don't think. I'm going to end there. I want to mention this new thing. They've started up the crank again about this EPA challenge. And the EPA challenge is a joke. I'm sure you guys know all about it, where they want everybody to put in a technology and then they don't intend to use it, which is absurd too. I guess you guys know that, right? Yeah, okay. So, anyway, that's quite absurd too, and then I just wanted to mention that the EPA has the worst, really bad track record. As you know, the Hudson is pretty much a failure. They blew the cap up on the they call it the Grasses River. And they just they built this multi-zillion-dollar cap on the river, and it failed 6 months after they were done building it. This is EPA in charge again, and they just continue to, fail. And of course, the Great Ohio that we heard about last year. So the CCC meeting is coming up pretty soon. Judy Herkimer wanted me to mention this too, is that, she thinks that there should be a representative from a selectman and the Tri-Town Health go to the CCC, but I'm taking the position, I imagine you guys don't have the time for any other meeting in your life, So that's up to you, okay? But, and then, of course, so we just had a NIPDES permit go on, and GE is asking to be released from monitoring their wells up at the GE plant, which is not a good thing either, to let GE get it up to allow them to do this. So we don't know which way that will go and which way it won't. But anyway, That's about it for right now.
Thank you, Tim. You keep us
Sorry to
updated.
keep you, but
No, it's good to get the updates, and if you could, as the time grows closer, when you're gonna have your open forum in March or April, or February, March, whenever it is, I mean, if we could announce it here and make sure we get.
oh yeah, I will. I'll make sure I do that.
Okay.
And I'll do that when Herman's in come, and, certainly want to make sure everybody gets a chance to hear these guys too, so.
That'd be great. Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thanks.
Thank you.
I think the Kathy Hall was online to,
Oh, yeah, okay. Where are we here?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Kathy.
Okay, thank you. Kathy Hawley, Youth Commission. There's a possibility of setting up the ice rink on Saturday, the 13th. The weather will dictate whether or not we can do it. We still need volunteers. Stay tuned to the town's website or Lee Youth Commission's Facebook page for updates. What we do know is that we don't want you to miss out on the town's second Saturday gym night, Minute to Win It Challenge. It's from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Crossway Tower Gym, 130 High Street. This event is for ages 4 to 11 and is free, although registration is required. Check the town's website and the Lee Youth Commission's Facebook page for further details. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you. Any more public comments? Seeing none, we're going to move on to general business. We put together a letter regarding the Monsanto Corporation and GE and the EPA. I'm going to read it, and then I'll let you know who's going to receive it. The Lee Selectboard recently obtained several GE, General Electric, and Monsanto documents that are cause for great concern related to the GE EPA Housatonic Rest of River Cleanup Remedy. Namely, the attached documents show that GE signed an agreement releasing Monsanto of liability for PCB contamination. To our knowledge, this was not disclosed to the EPA or the First Circuit Court of Appeals. In addition, the EPA failed to adequately investigate this relationship between GE and Monsanto. Also attached is an internal Monsanto document, a cancer index, outlining each employee diagnosed with cancer from PCBs to back as far as 1949. Over 2 decades prior to the release with GE. David Carpenter, the foremost expert on the human health impacts of PCBs, testified to the Lee Board of Health in an affidavit stating that the current location of the projected PCB dump in Lee would be catastrophic to the residents of Lee. His affidavit is attached. In 1968, Monsanto learned that PCBs were discharged into rivers and, unlike other chemicals, were not carried by the river currents to the sea. Instead, they became embedded into the sediments of the river. On February 21st, 1970, Monsanto's plasticizer department wrote a letter to all its 661 plasticizers customers warning them about contamination to waterways. Monsanto attached information in this letter stating that chemical and industrial plants were located next to rivers and disposed of chemical waste via river discharges. Monsanto also included information in this letter stating that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts only had regulations concerning river discharges for radioactive chemicals. In August of 1970, Monsanto halted all production of Aerochlors 1254 and 1262 due to overwhelming evidence it had that the PCBs were toxic and harmful to humans and the environment. By that date, Monsanto had sold more than 1.4 billion pounds of the aerochlores. On January 21st, 1971, Monsanto entered into a contract with GE to continue selling aerochlores 1254 and 1262 for usage in electrical equipment. Monsanto conveyed to GE under the terms of this contract that the PCBs were severely harmful to humans and the environment. GE executed this contract, assuming all responsibility for any damages Monsanto might have to pay others for PCB exposure. In the opinion of the town of Lee, the January 21st, 1971 contract between Monsanto and GE violates Massachusetts civil conspiracy law. The town is currently planning to file charges against Monsanto this month and related claims, including a public nuisance claim. Since the time of the amended EPA permit in 2020, the town of Lee has continued to express its overall discontent with the cleanup project as a whole. The town, through numerous elections and public meetings, has objected to almost every aspect of the cleanup, including, but not limited to, the toxic waste dump proposed for the town of Lee, the lack of any alternative technologies for the cleanup remedy, and the potential impact on our infrastructure and human health. The town of Lee played no part in the contamination of the river and considers this an environmental injustice that the residents of Lee, with the lowest income of all towns in the river cleanup area, be subject to 13 years of disruption and risk to human health, followed by centuries of potential issues from a toxic waste dump in our town. Based on the information presented in this letter, the town of Lee will continue to pursue all avenues for a cleanup remedy where all involved parties are held responsible and all contaminated sediment is removed from Lee and the Berkshires. We look forward to your support on this mission and welcome the opportunity to discuss the situation further. Feel free to contact us through Town Administrator Chris Britton, et cetera, et cetera. This will be signed by all 3 Select Board members. This letter will go to members of the government, His Excellency Joe Biden, President of the United States, the Honorable Edward Markey, U.S. Senate, the Honorable Elizabeth Warren, U.S. Senate, the Honorable Richard Neal, U.S. House of Representatives, Her Excellency Maura Healey, Governor of Massachusetts, the Honorable Andrea Campbell, Attorney General of the Massachusetts, the Honorable Paul Marks, State Senator, the Honorable Smitty Pignatelli, State Representative in the 3rd Berkshire District, EPA Region 1 Administrator David Cash, EPA Administrator Michael Regan, H. Lawrence Culp Jr., President of General Electric. And in the media, it will go to the Berkshire Eagle, the Berkshire Edge, Stockbridge Updates, Boston Globe, Springfield Republican, New England Public Radio, the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, CBS, NPR, Fox, and CNN.
And attachments.
Well, the attachments this will include attachments, the internal GE information, the GE/Monsanto documents, Mickey Friedman's 3-part series that he did for the Berkshire Edge, and the affidavit from Dr. David Carpenter. So that this will all go out to the aforementioned parties, and it's time that we get down to business.
Mr. Chairman,
Gordon.
I'd make a motion that we sign off on this letter and distribute it as you've noted.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Great job.
Okay, moving on, we're going to sign the paint stewardship resolution. We heard about that at the last meeting. I don't think we need to read this.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we, the select board signs the paint stewardship legislation or this resolution in support of the pay stewardship legislation.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't have anything else. Gordon, John?
Nope.
Nope. Moving on, Chris. Town Administrator updates.
Yeah, so just a quick board update. We have made some progress on our boards and committees. We've got a few that we still need to fill, so just as a reminder, we are still looking for hopefully just one on cable advisory. We've got a person that came today, but we are down two, so there's definitely at least one for cable advisory. Hope to have that other appointment for next meeting. There's one more spot on Ag Commission, one on Capital Outlay. There are multiple spots on Historical and Youth Commission, and one more spot on Community Preservation.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you, Chris. Our next regular meeting will be January 16th, 7 PM right here. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.